babes. You'll never regret keeping it classy. Excuse me. You will never regret keeping it classy. Do you know what you will regret? You will regret overextending yourself. You will regret over explaining. You will regret over investing yourself. That's what you will regret. But I promise you, you will never regret keeping it classy. What does that look like? It looks like you remaining grounded in whatever situation you find yourself in. And it's not easy. I promise you, it's not easy. You will wish. And it might not happen in the moment, right? In the moment, you will feel justified. Hello, baby. Hello, baby. Hello, baby. What you have to say? And how was the walk this morning? Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, my love. What was I saying? In the moment, you will feel justified. In the moment, you will feel, mwah, love you. Love you. In the moment, you will feel like this is right for me to act this way. You want my attention? You want my attention, baby? Oh, oh, oh. In the moment, you will feel like it's the right thing to do. But I'm telling you, when time passes, you are going to enter a phase of regret. You are going to enter in, I shouldn't have acted that way. How do I take this back? How do I work it back? You are most likely going to feel embarrassed. What I can promise you, without a doubt, is you will never regret keeping it classy. You will never regret regulating your emotions. You will never regret, oh my baby, oh my baby, I love you too. You will never regret not saying something. You will always regret something that you said. But if you didn't say it, you can't take it back. For example, the example I'm leaning towards is divorce. As I was walking my dog this morning, I was thinking about a different example of somebody being in a situation where they're trying to control the narrative and they will go to any means, they will do anything. Criminal behavior is not off the table. And then I thought, maybe that's a bit extreme for what I'm trying to communicate to you. So let's go with the divorce scenario. First of all, divorce. I need to package this. Nobody ever goes into a marriage thinking divorce, right? Nobody ever thinks this marriage is going to end. You go in thinking it's going to succeed. But when you reach that point, if, God forbid, you reach that point of divorce, you have to handle it in such a way that it's clean and swift. Because what you need to try and stay away from right now, if you want to keep things classy, is you want to stay away from drama, you want to stay away from messiness, you want to stay away from complications. Because that is what's going to replay in your mind over and over again. Whether you were the one that was being chaotic or whether you experienced the chaos, it's going to replay over and over in your mind, and you're going to think to yourself, you see, this is exactly why. This is exactly why I'm signing those papers, baby. This is exactly why. So, if you want somebody to have that perception of you, then by all means, my babes, go for it. Act that way if that's what you want for yourself. But I'm guessing you're watching this video, so I'm guessing it's not what you want for yourself. Now, for a divorce to happen, what we need to understand is the relationship failed. And the success of a relationship depends on the people in the relationship. It depends on how they conducted themselves, especially during times of disagreement. Because if I'm honest with you, from what I've seen, from relationships that I see around me, it's how you handle the disagreements that dictates the success of your relationship. So you have to remain grounded. I've said it in my previous video as well. I've said it in so many other videos. The first thing you have to do is when you feel your feelings coming up is breathe. Breathe, pause and say, what am I feeling right now? Identify the feeling and then take it from there, right? So it doesn't matter how they meet, it doesn't matter the context of the relationship. A success of a relationship depends on the people that are in the relationship, the two people. It can be a grandfather and a granddaughter, can be a manager and a subordinate. The success of a relationship depends on the two people that are in that relationship. It doesn't matter the context. And I say this to say that one person can be grounded. If the other person is chaotic, it still won't work. You need two people who are aligned, who understand what the outcome is and are calm, set clear boundaries, know how to communicate. So now that we know how a relationship can succeed, let's circle back to the divorce situation where it can get crazy, right? What we see so often is that it gets messy, it gets chaotic, it gets complicated. And if I try to understand it from my perspective, it looks like there are people, two people, who are each trying to control the outcome. They're trying to control the outcome. And what that manifests in, it manifests in seeing how much they can affect the other person. Because if they can affect that person, then maybe they can steer the, the navigation the way that they want to go. And what it often results in is horrible things being said, people acting in ways that they wouldn't act under any circumstances. And I'm really doing my best to try and communicate to you that you will never regret not acting like that. Even if you are receiving that, you will never regret not going to that level. Never. I'm reminded of a conversation that my mother would have with me time and time and time again. She will always tell me, you know, Rio, just because you're polite doesn't mean you're not being rude. And in retrospect now, thinking about why she said that. So first of all, before I think about why she said that, the reason I'm bringing this to you is to demonstrate that I've always been a regulated person. Emotionally, I've never been an emotionally reactive person. Never been that person. So I'm bringing this to you in the hopes that if I give you my tools and my skills, that hopefully you will be able to also get to that place. What I'm trying to communicate to you is that it's not a skill that I learned over time. I've naturally always just been this person. Circling back to why I think my mother would say that to me, in retrospect, I think it was a way to control the dynamic, to get me to abandon myself, because she would bring me something that obviously it was contradicting what she wanted at the time. So when she would bring me that and I wouldn't have it, my boundary would go up. Yeah, no, this is how far we go and no further. And I wasn't rude, I wasn't disrespectful, I wasn't swearing and shouting when I communicated what I did. I just was unwavering. I just said, no, I don't want to. It's not for me. And her resorting to, that's rude. if I'm understanding it now that I'm talking to you, it might be a way that she was trying to overrule my boundary or override it so that she could get what she wanted. And as a child, obviously, I didn't want to be rude to my mommy. So I would allow that. But now, as an adult, obviously, my communication skills, I've honed them, I've refined them to a degree where it's not easy for somebody to overrule my boundary or override whatever it is I say I don't want for myself. It's not very easy for me to abandon myself. It's not easy for somebody to get me to abandon myself. And I'm not going to tell you the outcome, but what I will tell you is that there are two outcomes when that does happen. Either the person who is used to the dynamic of constantly being able to allow you to abandon yourself, to adopt their narrative, they can either adapt, or you can go into a power struggle where this person will fight the changing dynamic, because that's what people do. That is what people do. People would choose safety over possibility. They will choose the safety of a familiar, chaotic, unhealthy dynamic over the possibility of something more stable, over the possibility of better, because it's unfamiliar, and unfamiliar and unknown, that is scary. What is known is safe, and that is the majority of our people will behave. So those are the two possible outcomes, but I'm not going to tell you which direction our relationship took between mine and my mother. That's going to stay between us. Then, circling back to the divorce, you need to understand that when you reach that point, you are never going to regret classy. You are always going to regret overextending, negotiating, begging, pleading. You are always going to regret it. If you think about what are you communicating in that moment when you start fighting, arguing, shouting, swearing, negotiating, finding possible solutions, maybe for a little while the person will stay with you. Maybe you've pressured them to such a degree where they're staying with you out of pity. You've devalued yourself. This person has said, this isn't for me. And because you want to be chosen so badly, you reduce your own value. You put a discount on your stock. Because that's what we see in the shops, right? If the stock is on the floor for long and it needs to move so that new stock can come in, it gets discounted because nobody wants it. What you are communicating to the person in that moment is that you don't even want yourself, because you are not even choosing yourself. Why would anybody choose you if you won't even choose yourself? Let me run that back. Why would anybody choose you when you don't even choose yourself? In that moment, you have to understand that person is not choosing you. So you can't be abandoning yourself as well, because the outcome is set in stone. The outcome has been set in stone. Separation is the outcome, whether it happens now or whether it happens 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, however, 2 years, 5 years from now, that separation is coming, whether you delay it or whether it happens now. But you have the option of how are you going to carry yourself. If it happens now, it needs to be clean, swift, no drama, no messiness, cut, done. Excuse me. That's what it needs. I'm going to repeat myself again. You are never going to regret acting classy. let's say you spiral in that moment and you convince that person to stay with you. 2 years down the line, the conversation pops up again because nothing changed. There was no reflection that happened in the moment, no what is actually not working. There was no discovery. So you are going to inevitably repeat the same mistakes. And when you reach that point again, you are going to feel even worse because you've devalued yourself. You placed a discount on yourself and they still don't want you. You need to stay classy because you are never going to regret it. Regulate your emotions. Breathe. As soon as you feel emotional charge, identify the feeling. People only really have three feelings. In my opinion, I think people only have three feelings, and that is happiness, sadness, and anger. And then, if you can say red, yellow, blue, and then we've got different hues of the same shade, more saturated, more desaturated. And you can combine them to make the primary colors. Okay, you understand. Right? Happiness can be peace, calm. Sadness can be, I don't know, sadness, grief, bereavement if you've lost a family member. Anger can be jealousy, rage. Right, so we've got different hues of the same shade. I say that to say that I do believe that people only have three emotions. So if you can simplify your emotions down to anger, sadness, and happiness, it's easier for you to identify. I'm feeling an emotional charge of anger. Okay, now that I've named it, I can control it, I can claim it. And when you've claimed it, you can regulate yourself through the interaction. Stay away from emotional leakage. Stay away from emotional spillage because you are always going to regret overextending yourself emotionally. But I promise you will never regret keeping it classy, my babes. Alright, that's all from me for now. Stay tuned for more. I almost said stay tuned for more weather updates. Use your copanosity and not your holotology. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye.